Hello everyone, Rob Guest from football.london here and welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. There's still no Alistair Gold with us this week as he's currently away on his 25th holiday of the year. So it's Lee Wilmot once again joining me. Lee, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, he's still away, off gallivanting. I don't know how long it's been now, but he's due back next week. But yeah, delighted to be joining you again. All is well in the Wilmot household. Spurs are top of the league, 2 points clear. Could make it 5 on Friday, which is great. So yeah, smiles all round. Did you enjoy the game last night?
Yeah, I think it certainly had its positives and some negatives as well, but all that matters is 3 points, and Spurs managed to do that with goals from Son Heung-min in the first half, and then a really well-taken finish from James Maddison 9 minutes after the restart. It could have been more, though, couldn't it? I mean, the amount of opportunities they had, there were a couple of scares. The one early on, Guglielmo Vicaria making a really good save from João Palhinha, and then Fulham did have a few openings in the second half. I think few too many for Ange Postecoglou's liking, most certainly. But yeah, then like Ange Postecoglou was saying in his post-match press conference, they really maybe could have put the game to bed in the first half, given the amount of chances they had, and on another day, they could have easily been 2 or 3-0 up at half time.
Do you know what's interesting? What you said there, the result is all that matters, and that is all that matters in football. 3 points, you get 3 points, you keep getting 3 points, then 3 points, the 3 points, you're going to go and win something. And I wrote that in a piece today where I kind of centered around Ange's comments after the game last night, where he said the second half was probably one of the worst 45 minutes that he's overseen so far at the club. And yes, results are all that matters, but because of the last 3 or so years we've had, and just because of how Tottenham fans have been brought up, we've been brought up to enjoy our football and to play a certain way. The result and the performance kind of are supposed to go hand in hand for Tottenham fans. And now, after the last 3 years, we've actually got a manager, head coach, I should call him, who has that philosophy as well. He's clearly not happy that they've won the game 2-0. That's a very Antonio Conte scoreline, isn't it? 2-0.
Yeah.
Get an early goal, settle in, get a second goal, and then you're done. He wasn't happy with that. That second half showing was not good enough in terms of what we've come to accept so far this season. So yeah, it's just quite exciting, isn't it? I've said it before. It is quite exciting to have that kind of manager involved that won't accept taking their foot off the pedal, essentially.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there were, like you said at the start of the podcast, there were positives. There was some really good play from Tottenham at times. But this is the great thing with Ange. He won't let the standard slip, and he will continue to want more and more from his Tottenham team. And this is really exciting because they've still got some way to go. And they're currently top of the Premier League table, won, 7 from 9, drawn 2 of the games as well. They're going great guns at the moment, and winning becomes a habit, and I think the Premier League table very much highlights that at the moment for Spurs. So yeah, I think all in all it's 3 points, and potentially now can open up a 5-point lead come Friday evening if they win at Crystal Palace.
It's incredible to think, really.
Yeah.
I have seen the likes of Arsenal, City, Liverpool don't exactly have tough games at the weekend. So it probably won't be 5 points for very long. But what a position that will be to be in come 10 o'clock on Friday night. 5 points clear. It's just unheard of. And you kind of then you take that into what becomes a very big game against Chelsea, a kind of resurgent Chelsea under a certain former favourite at Tottenham.
Yes. Right then, obviously you were watching on last night. What did you make of Tottenham's performance then overall?
Yeah, do you know what? I thought the first half was very good. It was very. I was pleased to see. I think it was Maddison in his interview with the BBC. I think it was in the end. He didn't say it on Sky, as far as I'm aware. But he was talking about how Spurs, he felt like Spurs were a little bit surprised that Fulham didn't press a bit higher than they did. It was very weird to see Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero just kind of walking with the ball on halfway, and I'm sat there thinking, come on, let's try and find a way through this. Let's try and pick a way through. And it just did feel like they were just being given time on the ball, and Fulham were like, well, you can try and break us down. You can try and do something. We'll set up in our shape, and you've got to try and find a way through us, essentially. And it's where it can be a heart and mouth moment, but it's where you draw an opposition onto you, don't you? You want them to come out a little bit, so you take those risks to then play the ball forward quickly and find the spaces and find the pockets of space moving forward, essentially. But yeah, I thought we created a number of good opportunities in the first half. Got the goal through Son, obviously through a mistake from Fulham, but good analysis on Sky Sports, I thought, from Jamie Carragher in that Mickey van de Ven closed that space down to go and win that ball higher up the pitch, rather than and just left Carlos Vinicius behind him for Romero to deal with. Won the ball, and Sonny with an excellent finish. And there were other opportunities as well. I thought we dominated the first half. We gave Fulham a couple of chances. Obviously, that Palhinha header was tremendous save from Vicario. Such a strong hand to keep that out. It was unbelievable, really. But yeah, could have been 2-3. 3-0 up, and that would have been the game, really. And it would have been interesting then to see how Spurs reacted, because I thought we were really sloppy at the start of the second half. The first 5-10 minutes of the second half, I thought we were really sloppy, and gave Fulham that little bit of a foothold. And then the Maddison goal almost came out of nowhere because we were a little bit on the back foot, and then it felt like that was it. The Spurs were quite happy to just hold on to that 2-0 lead. There was another chance, obviously, where I'm not going to say that they got in each other's way, because Maddison has clearly said that Sonny got in his way, which I think is fair. There was that chance as well. And there were a couple of other moments where balls through to Veliz when he came on, didn't quite work out. Richarlison had a chance, and I know we're going to talk about him a little bit more later on. But yeah, first half, really good. Second half, I was sat there watching it thinking, Ange's not going to be happy with this. He's not going to be happy with how we're playing in this game. We just offered Fulham too many chances, too much of the ball, and you don't want to be in that position. I was sat there thinking, we could do with a third goal here, because if Fulham take one of these chances they're getting, it then becomes nervy, which you don't want.
Yeah, very much so. I thought Fulham did well in the first half, but it was once Spurs got the opening goal, then turned it on a bit more and had those openings on goal. And there was that fantastic link-up play. I think it was Richarlison into a Doggy, who then played it to Maddison, to Son. Son with that flick, first time to Doggy, who had his shot blocked. Kulusevski on the follow-up had it blocked. And I think prior to the goal, there was a really swift counter-attack. I think it was from a Fulham corner. Kulusevski down the right wing, played it across into Richarlison. And I mean, he was a whisker away from finding the bottom corner. So there was some fantastic play, but as you were saying, they were really, really sloppy in the second half, especially like the first 5 minutes or so before they eventually got that crucial second goal. Because had a look at Ange at one point, and I think this was Fulham had probably gone through them a couple of times. I think there was one long ball Watt sent, one of the players who was on the right wing free, and Ange gave the defensive players a proper rocket. He was not impressed by that, and I think the second goal in the game was always going to be crucial. Fulham got some dangerous players up top. William likes scoring against Spurs. He's done it a couple of times when he was at Chelsea, and Bobby de Corderie got into a few good positions as well. But you just know with Tottenham's quality that when they produce something, they've got players there who can take it. And yeah, capitalised on some more sloppy play from Fulham. I think Calvin Bassey again did not have a good game. I think everything just came through his wayward passes, and some really good finishes, good play in the build-up for the goals as well. But after that, as you've saying, it's just maybe overplaying at times, trying to score the perfect goal. Very similar to Arsenal years and years ago when Arsene Wenger were in charge, when it was like the Invincibles team, and they were just, trying to pass the way through teams and score the perfect goal. just simplify it. If you've got an opportunity on goal, take it. You could go in, you could force a rebound. And that's what I think Ange wasn't impressed about at all, especially second half. It's just the use of the ball and, as he said, taking liberties at times. He just wants his team to go for it from the first minute to the last and put the teams to the sword. And unfortunately, they didn't do that in the second half.
I think for me, when you're 2-0 up, you're either going to do what Ange wants to do and just keep going for the third, keep going for the fourth, keep playing the same way, or you slot back into an Antonio Conte side and shut up shop completely and take the 2-0. We did neither last night. We were so open to the kind of counter and to balls over the top and to balls in behind the defence. It was just, it'll give Ange certainly food for thought in terms of how we move on next. And you mentioned Calvin Bassey there. I've got a Fulham supporting friend of mine I was chatting to before the game, and I said, "Oh, I've looked at your fantasy Premier League team, and you're clearly not very confident about Fulham tonight because he had 3 Spurs players in there and no Fulham players in." And he said, "Well, if we're playing Calvin Bassey at right centre back, it's not going to be pretty." And he was absolutely right.
In terms of the Tottenham team, then there was always going to be one enforced change with Yves Bissouma suspended for the game. The Ange Postecoglou made it pretty clear in his pre-match press conference on Friday that Pierre-Emile would be coming into the team. He said he's basically the ready-made replacement for Bissouma, and I think Højbjerg deserved the start, especially after that 45-minute showing at Luton to help Spurs get over the line when Luton, of course, had that one-man advantage. And I thought Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, for me, that I gave him the highest rating in the player ratings last night. I thought it was really, really good. It was both sides of his game. He put himself about from the off, made some really good touches. There was that bit of play midway through the first half when Guglielmo Vicario played the ball out. It was short, went straight to Willian, and Højbjerg managed to get a crucial touch on it and had a key role as well in the second goal. I think while everyone's going to be talking about Maddison's and Son's play for that first time pass to Son was fantastic, right into his path, and he just put it on the plate for Maddison. And I thought for someone who's not played an awful lot of football this season, or maybe not as many minutes as he would have liked, said on the previous podcast, Højbjerg had started 109 of the last 114 Premier League games going into this season. Last night against Fulham was his first start, but you couldn't really tell that because I thought he was really was a standout player, and certainly giving Ange Postecoglou something to think about. What did you make of his performance then, Lee?
Yeah, it's easy to forget, isn't it, that he was an integral part of the first team for 2-3 years. Didn't miss a minute under Mourinho or whatever it is. The stat that always started every single game for however many games in a row. And he was brilliant in that role. To be fair, in what was really not a struggling Spurs team, but a less than convincing Spurs team has been for a couple of years. He was one of the standout players. So for him to lose his place as soon as Ange Postecoglou came in because Ange could see something in Yves Bissouma that Antonio Conte couldn't, it was a little bit harsh on him. So I don't think... I never really had any doubts that he could come in and play the role because we've seen him do it before. And yeah, he just showed what a classy individual he is, really, and what a true professional he is coming into the team and giving it 100%. Even though he doesn't know whether his long-term future is going to be at the club, I think he's probably aware that Bissouma is the favoured man for Ange Postecoglou in that position. I suppose Højbjerg could argue that he could play alongside Bissouma. He could slot in there in place of Pape Sarr, who was, again, brilliant in his own way last night. I can't fault Højbjerg and his professionalism. I think we all know what he's capable of, and he showed it again last night.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Just showing that experience, his leadership qualities, and he has, made an impression in the Tottenham team when he has been coming off the bench. I think Bournemouth, Liverpool, Luton, the standout ones for me. Manchester United as well, just helping Spurs get over the line. He's a, top professional. He was obviously seen as Antonio Conte's warrior in the middle of the pitch, his Viking, and I think he deserves all the praise he's going to get today because he was fantastic. I know there was someone else last night who caught your eye, Lee, a certain Brazilian in attack.
Yes. Do you know, it's it seems to be the way that I always say something that comes back to bite me. I've been a big advocate of Richarlison since he's been at the club, and I know you love him from his Everton days, obviously. And I think we said on the podcast last week that we probably, I think I said that he probably should be dropped just because it wasn't happening for him, and you can't be sentimental in situations like this. And if Brennan Johnson was back, then it would be nice to see him back in. But he missed a couple of chances last night, Richarlison. That's the stick everyone will continue to shake at him. My oldest son was not impressed with the first miss in the first half. Wanted him off straight away. Such is how
it's a bit harsh.
That's the youth of today, mate. It's the youth of today. But his all-round game last night, I thought, was excellent. The way he battled back. It was tracking back, being defensive. He was holding onto the ball really well, using his strength, getting the passes in, linking up with the midfield, and playing the ball into the positions. He put one brilliant ball in for Pedro Porro, just couldn't get on the end of. I thought his all-round play was really good last night. And I know you want to speak about him a little bit more, but I did notice someone tweet earlier today, I think it was, or may even have been last night, and this is no slight on Dejan Kulusevski at all, but in 6 starts, Richarlison has 1 goal and 3 assists, so 4 goal involvements in 6 starts, and Kulusevski has 2 goals and no assists in 9 starts. Now, I think the tweet I read said this is not doing any disservice to Kulusevski, and I don't want to do any kind of disservice to Kulusevski because I think he's been brilliant, and his kind of build-up play this season without getting the rewards of goals and assists has been outstanding. But when you look at those bare facts, Richarlison is actually having an impact without scoring the goals that everyone wants him to score.
Yeah, very much so. Assists in 3 successive home games now. There was obviously the Sheffield United one, Liverpool last time out, and then Fulham last night. He's making an impact. I know everyone wants him to be scoring goals, and everyone was rightly saying he needs to be, especially when he was starting in the central role. But now he's on the left. Obviously, he still needs to be contributing with goals, but probably not as many as people wanted him to when he was in the central role. But he's certainly chipping in with the assists, which is pleasing. I thought it was a really, really good pass from him to Son. Just quick thinking, put Son into a really good position, and he just finished it expertly. Like you said, it's just his all-round play. You know what you're going to get from him defensively. He'll always, work back, help cover Destiny Doggy. He'll put in the hard yards, and he'll also make an impact going forward. And I thought his link-up play last night was really good. And that ball into Pedro Porro was absolutely fantastic. Such a wicked delivery. And it was just a shame, Porro was about a yard or so off maybe getting on the end of it and converting it. Thought it was a really good performance from him. But I think a lot will probably remember that shot in the second half. What went some way over the crossbar into the south stand. It was a shocking attempt. It was
and
good.
Someone remember the moment as well that had Ange Postecoglou irate on the touchline. A little bit of nonchalance that we have seen from Richarlison before. Talk us through that, because I know you've written a story about it today.
Yes. Right. Just going back to that miss, I think that was really good play from Spurs at the time, and he had time in the area just, to take a touch and settle himself, but rushed it. As I was saying, missed the goal by some distance. I don't even think that had gone in if there was another goal on top of the goal. It was that high. But yeah, as you were saying, Ange was not impressed. At one point, I think it was 71st minute, Pierre-Emile had the ball in central area, spread it out wide to Richarlison, who was unmarked. It bounced, bit of showboating, trying to bring it down on his shoulder instead of maybe just chesting it down. And it was a loose touch. Timothy Castaña's come in, won the ball. Fulham have ended up conceding a throw-in, and Ange is just raging at that point. Just arms are in the air, just like going, "What's going on here?" Like, simplify it, just do the basics. Really, James Maddison had to put his hand up in like a bit of an apologetic manner towards the bench, and then gave Richarlison a bit of a tap on the shoulder in terms of like encouraging him. It was just sloppy, wasn't it? But I mean, that was what Spurs were guilty of in the second half. As Ange said in his press conference, just taking liberties. What he wants is you don't rest on your laurels at all. Even when like you're 2-3-0 up, you keep going and you keep going till the full time whistle. That's what he wants you to do. Just keep going, go for the jugular. He doesn't want showboating or a team taking the foot off the gas. And yeah, really, really poor play that. And I'm pretty sure he gave them a real talking to. It's full time, and I'm pretty sure he'll be drilling home that message again over the course of the week that that's not to happen again. You've just got to keep going and keep going until the full time whistle.
Yeah, it could work in our favour in some ways. It could give them the rocket they need going into Palace on Friday. As Ange said afterwards, it is a quick turnaround for Friday night football, but we can't really complain given that there's no European football or anything. This is probably the only quick turnaround Spurs are going to have this season, really.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's 5 days or so. I mean, it's usually what Spurs would be doing last season. If in the Champions League, it'd be Monday to Friday is the equivalent of doing a Tuesday to Saturday. So there might be 5 days this time. But between Palace and Chelsea, there's 10 days because Spurs are playing on the Monday again. This is what it's like this season with no European football in midweek or the Carabao Cup after they got knocked out back in August at Fulham. And I said at the end of my talking points on that Richarlison moment, could actually work in Spurs' favour at Crystal Palace because they know they've had a rocket from Postecoglou and they won't want to upset him. And they could really potentially, if they go for it and play the football they're capable of, they could potentially put Crystal Palace to the sword. Because Palace aren't in the best of form at the moment. They lost 4-0 at Newcastle the other day. So yeah, it's just one thing we don't want to see, just them taking liberties because they're too good for that. Just concentrate on your game. You can score a lot more goals. Right. As you touched on him a bit earlier, Dejan Kulusevski. With Brennan Johnson back to full fitness now, getting 9 minutes under his belt last night, plus the stoppage time. If Johnson's going to come back into the team,
where did that stoppage time come from? By the way, 7 minutes. I didn't understand.
I've no idea. Were there any injuries? I can't really. Nothing noticeable.
No VAR checks or anything. It's very strange.
I've no idea, but as I was saying, then Brennan Johnson back. Ange maybe wants to make some changes for Crystal Palace. If he's to make a change in attack and bring Johnson in, who's at risk? Is it Kulusevski?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I'm a big fan of Kulusevski and what he brings to the table, just getting us on the front foot and the little flicks and the little the strength he's got to kind of keep a fullback out of the way and get us moving down the flank. So yeah, he's not bringing the numbers, as it were, that Richarlison is, but his all round game. I don't know. It's hard to say. Richarlison's form previously would be the easy one to say. Well, if Brendan Johnson were to come back in, then it's for Richarlison. But yeah, as I say, I thought Richarlison was excellent last night without scoring a goal. That one moment might put Ange off. One moment might be right. Your showboating has cost you a start. You can sit on the bench this time. You never know. But yeah, Kulusevski, It's hard for me to criticize him, really. I don't know what you think about his performances, but I think everything that he offers, he's doing everything right apart from grabbing the kind of the last assist or the goal. Essentially, I think everything else is there for him.
Yeah, I think effectively it is that. I think he's played well at times this season. Maybe it's just, the final ball, the final piece of play from him. It's just not coming off. I think maybe he needs to be a bit more selfish at times because he's getting into some really good shooting positions, but then maybe, laying the ball off to Son or Richarlison. I think you said that one point was a Spurs attack, and I think everyone was basically laying it off to each other rather than, going for goal. I think the thing is for Kulusevski, he came in and made such an impact when he initially signed on loan from Juventus. That it was 5 goals, 8 assists in 18 Premier League games, which was just absolutely, staggering, and played a major part in Tottenham getting a Champions League finish at the end of that season. And didn't match those numbers really last season, didn't have a similar impact. And maybe one of these, because he made that huge impact, they're the levels you're holding him to, and you're expecting him to be hitting those numbers, week in, week out. And unfortunately, it's not worked out for him. Certainly not for the, want of trying. He's been playing some really good football. It's just the final bit of play maybe at times. And people are going to have a look at goal involvement numbers, and Rich is ahead of him at the moment, so maybe he is the one at risk. And right wing, it's Brendan Johnson's natural side, so it just seems to be like a like for like replacement.
But we know Ange came in and was not happy that data wasn't being used as much as he thought it should be used. So, yeah, it could be that he looks at the brass numbers and gives Kulusevski a little stint on the bench.
Yeah, but I mean, this is one of these things what could potentially work in his favour as well, because he's always been a first team regular at Tottenham. Maybe not had a challenger really for his position. I mean, the first season he was at the club, he was Lucas Moura and Steven Bergwijn, and they weren't getting a lot of football from the bench. Last season, who did they have? Richarlison, even Perisic as well. Yeah, it might be one of these where it does help him out. It might spur him on to even greater heights. And I think this is the thing: you just don't want a great first 11. You want a great 20, 25 man squad, yep. And you've got everyone fighting for a place in the team, and that will, the increased competition will work in Tottenham's favour, and get players hitting new levels altogether. So maybe he will drop out of the team against Crystal Palace. No, Ange said pre Fulham, because of the quick turnaround, that he's probably going to have to make use of his squad and make some changes here and there. So maybe we do see one, because he gave Brendan Johnson a start in the North London derby. That was after coming off the bench against Sheffield United the week previous. So he's not afraid of putting Brendan Johnson in the starting lineup, whoever they play. So yeah, maybe it is Kulusevski at risk.
Maybe it'd be interesting on Friday. I'm looking forward to Friday already, just purely because I think I would have been looking forward to it had we battered Fulham last night and put in a brilliant performance anyway. But I think I'm more looking forward to it now because the second half wasn't that great, and interested to see how the team react to what will be Ange Postecoglou going ballistic, I think is what James Maddison described it as from that pre-season game against Shakhtar, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was. Before we discuss a bit more of last night's 2-0 win over Fulham, I'll tell you about the benefits of using NordVPN. Right. If you're not aware by now, the Gold Guest Talk Tottenham podcast is sponsored by NordVPN, and you can use the service in a host of different ways to enhance your internet experience. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, and that means there's no buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. You can use Nord to set your device to thinking it's back in the UK and just watch them as normal. Not only that, but the outlay on the NordVPN subscription is cheaper for you in the long run. And that's because you can purchase streaming services in other countries at a much cheaper rate. So, for example, you can change your virtual location to Australia, where Ali is enjoying himself right now. You can maybe book flights from Australia or any country you want to book flights from. And also, security-wise, it's a great system for pretty much going as far as you possibly can to stop people stealing things off your device if you're connected to a public Wi-Fi. Such a clever app that you can install on any device that you've got, quite frankly, and is very easy to set up, and you can get straight on and going with it. There's a whole host of other benefits from signing up to NordVPN, so why not give it a go? You can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/goldguest to get your huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Right then, as you mentioned, James Maddison, I think he came out with the Premier League Man of the Match award last night. Another good showing from him.
Well, yeah, we've got this on the list to talk about today. I don't know what more what more I can say about James Maddison. He wants the ball at every opportunity, doesn't he? He mentioned it in his post-match interview last night that I've already said here that they were surprised that Fulham weren't pressing as high as they expected, and the centre backs were kind of walking on halfway. And Maddison himself said that I've made the decision, or it's not his decision, but it's something that Ange Postecoglou wants is kind of his players to be fluid and to kind of not be set in their positions. Essentially, he made the decision to come and get the ball from the defenders a bit deeper and try and make things work, and it certainly worked. He just has this natural ability to be everywhere on the pitch, and he's not got a massive amount of pace. He's just so intelligent as a footballer to be in the right place at the right time, and I think he'd be quite happy if Son Heung-min was not in his place at the wrong time in the second half. Otherwise, he would have had 2 goals to his name. But yeah, great signing. Jamie Carragher spoke about him on Sky Sports afterwards, saying he's probably been the most influential signing of the season, and it's hard to disagree, really. The numbers that he's putting in, how many? Where are we? I've got the stats here. I think I just had them open. 3 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League in 9 matches. Can't ask for much more, can you?
Oh, not at all. I mean, not for the price as well. What they paid for him, absolute peanuts in today's market. I think. How much did Arsenal pay for Kai Havertz? About 65 million?
Yeah. 25 million more.
Yeah. I mean, what a deal. Signing of the summer. I think
they spent 65 million on a player who is a forward, but they've tried to turn into a midfielder, whereas we've signed a midfielder for 40 million.
Yeah, and James Maddison's just an absolute game changer for Tottenham. Obviously, there was going to be major worry where like the goals and assists were going to come from with Harry Kane departing, and Maddison's just filled in that role perfectly, and not a bad number 10 to replace Harry Kane. Maddison's just been outstanding ever since he stepped in through the door. I know we did a interview with, I think it's the Men in Blazers podcast in America last week, and he was talking about his performances and saying there's been a few games this season where, everyone's been raving about him and saying he's been, man of the match. And he himself is going, well, I don't actually think I was that good in that game. I can actually be better. So I actually wonder what his view is on his performance from last night, given he got man of the match again. But no, I thought another really good showing. He just wants to get on the ball and make a difference. And when you've got a player with that quality, you're going to be opening up the doors and creating chances for, Son and the wide players. And yeah, just like absolute transfer bargain, just a transformative signing, really, for Tottenham. And just everyone's waxing lyrical about him, and he thoroughly deserves it. And those numbers are only going to increase as the season goes on.
The way he talks as well about like at the beginning of the season, he said he could always see himself in this Tottenham kit, and I think he was speaking last night saying that the fans love him and he loves the fans, and he's already feeling like it's a home sort of thing. He's saying all the right things about being at Spurs, and you kind of he's talking up what Spurs have always stood for. I think essentially, he's kind of delving into that philosophy of being a kind of a flair player at Spurs and being the man to make things happen. He's just thriving on the pressure of being the main man essentially now. Although Son Heung-min obviously is the captain and is expected to be the main man in Harry Kane's absence, Maddison has taken the number 10 shirt and knows that he knew probably as soon as he came in, he probably knew, like Ange did, that if the opportunity was there, Harry was going. So he had time to kind of get his feet under the table and think, oh, you know what, I can take this team by the scruff of the neck and make it my own team.
Yeah, very much so. So unlucky not to get another goal last night. It was just watching it back. It was a bit of a heavy touch from him in the area. Did escape him a little, so you can probably see why Son's gone for it.
Do you know what? As soon as I first saw it, Son put his hand out to tell Maddison, "I'll take over."
Right.
And Maddison obviously ignored him because, like, well, it's my ball. I've already got it. It's my ball. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, just a shame he got in his way because I think he'd have scored in that position.
Yeah.
Very similar to his first goal of the night, but he's going to score a lot more goals at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium over the course of his Spurs career because he's just a top player.
Disappointed with his first free kick on the night.
Yeah, was that the one he played short to Destiny? Put probably a bit too much on it, and it was a heavy touch. Yeah, that was just like prime James Maddison position. You just think
it did look like him.
You're gonna go for it now because he scored a number of free kicks for Leicester City. It's just a really good position. You're just thinking, be selfish, just go for it. But
well, my son said, "Oh, we've got a number 10 who can take free kicks finally," and then that happened.
Right, a couple of other players we need to talk about. Destiny Udogie and Papa Matar Sarr both subbed off quite early in the contest. Destiny came off a couple of minutes after Maddison's goal. Papa Matar Sarr was just after the hour mark. Ange was asked about the reasons why they came off. So I think obviously the main concern when you're coming off so early in the second half is probably injuries, which will have been going through everyone's mind. But Ange made it perfectly clear what the reason was. He said Pap hasn't been well the last 24 hours, but he was really keen to start tonight. Candy knew probably 60 minutes would be his maximum, so there was just fatigue in him, short turnaround, but the medical team seems to be pretty confident that it will be fine. Destiny just felt a bit of tiredness at half-time, and we said just give it 10-15 minutes. Again, short turnaround, and once we got the second goal, it made sense to take him off. So it's just one of these where no injuries, just giving him a bit of a rest, and especially with that short turnaround, that extra bit of a breather could, do them good and put them back in the starting lineup against Palace. Sarr did make a crucial intervention a couple of minutes before he came off with that brilliant header to deny Jimenez at the back post. Just seemed to come from absolutely nowhere and took it off Jimenez's head because he'd have been testing Vicario given where he was in the area.
Yeah, I made a point of, like, when the replay came on, of saying to my kids, like, look how far Sarr is out before he's sprinted to get that header. Just shows the kind of desire and kind of what Ange Postecoglou kind of puts into you when you're playing one of his teams. Essentially, that he felt he had to do that, and excellent, brilliant covering header it really was.
Yeah, also putting the talking points that I think Destiny's first goal for the club is just, a matter of time away. He's just getting into these excellent positions, teaming up really well with, those in attack. And that bit of play where some flicked it into his path first time, so unlucky. He's coming. Again, another really, really good showing, I thought, from Destiny, both sides of his game. Especially in defence as well, because there was one point towards the end of the first half when Bobby de Cordova had a header and he was in so much space, and there was another Fulham attacker in space, and Destiny got that crucial block. What did you make of his performance then? More of the
Yeah.
same as usual?
Do you know what? I didn't think he was as good as we've seen
Right.
him this season. I thought you were a little bit generous with your player ratings in terms of
Really?
Destiny last night. But yeah, he, if he's tired, obviously Ange just brought him off after 55 minutes. He perhaps wasn't quite in the zone as he has been before. But yeah, I just thought you make a good point about the chance that he got into the box and really well played going forward. That little bit of play with Son and the block against they got over Reed, obviously. But I just felt he was a little bit sloppy in possession. I didn't think the ball stuck with him sometimes, a little bit careless with control sometimes. Just got the wrong side of forward sometimes, having to get back in position. Not to say it was a bad performance. I think I've just already come to expect more from him this season. But yeah, I didn't think it was one of his best. But yeah, if he's got a bit of time and a bit of rest now to get back to it on Friday, hopefully.
Yeah. What did you make of the subs then? Who came on? We saw 5 changes last night. Emerson, Oliver Skip getting some, much needed minutes because we've not really seen a lot of him this season with Bissouma and Sarah Maddison playing so well in midfield. And then there was that triple change, the final 10 minutes with Lo Celso, Alejo Belize and Brendan Johnson coming on.
You want those ones in particular, the last ones, you want them to kind of get a grip of the game in the last 10 minutes, don't you? And just kind of settle it down a little bit. And didn't really do that, unfortunately. It's what I think I've said it on the podcast before, that you do wonder about the strength and depth at Spurs and whether we can maintain the kind of a title charge with the players that are coming off the bench. I don't think they had the best impact last night. I know we're going to disagree about Emerson Royale a little bit. I thought there were occasions where he was out of position. I didn't think let's not forget, he hasn't played very much at all this season, has he really? So I can't be too harsh on him, because I do think he was kind of coming into his own second half of last season. I thought he played really well second half of last season. But yeah, I don't think he was great. And then before we came onto the podcast, you made the point that he did make 2 excellent blocks, which is absolutely fair. He did make 2 excellent blocks, which is what he's there for. He's there to defend those chances. I just felt with at least one of them, he gave Harry Wilson so much space to start with, and it's probably not his fault. I think the team was playing high, and that's Ange Postecoglou wants the team to play high, so he did have to rush back and get into position to make that block. You can talk up Emerson Royale now if you want.
I don't think there's that much more to say, really. I thought he, more than played his part when he came on, especially going on to the left side because he's naturally right-sided. There was those, blocks in the final few minutes of stoppage time because, yeah, the game was won, but Fulham could have given Spurs a bit of an almighty fright in the final few minutes. Like, if they'd taken one of those chances, Jimenez had a good chance what Vicario saved. Wilson got played through, and for a player his quality, you're probably expecting him to score. But Mickey van der Ven, it was excellent again last night, and I mean, pace to burn, that lad.
It's incredible when you see someone trying to play a ball in behind. It's like, nope, you're not getting that. You're not beating Mickey van der Ven in a foot race.
Yeah, and you're just thinking the position Wilson was in, and then Van der Ven just comes from absolutely nowhere, slows Wilson down a bit, and then Emerson's on hand to get another blocking. I can't remember what his other block was, but at the time thinking, yeah, another crucial intervention from him. I thought he played well when he came on, but you've got to, because he's not been a regular. His early starts have been Brentford on the opening day and then Fulham in the Carabao Cup at the end of August. And I can't even remember him getting many minutes from the bench, really. I think he might be here and there he's only played. So I think it's the case for all the subs. Once you come on, you've got to try and make an impact. I thought Skip did all right, played his part. He made a crunching tackle on one play. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Willian in the middle of the pitch.
When I first saw that, I thought that's a great tackle that is. And then when you see the replay back, it doesn't actually get any of the ball, I don't think. So he was a little bit lucky, yeah.
I didn't actually spot that on the replay, but yeah, I thought Skip did okay. But the problem for Oliver Skip is Bissouma's ahead of him, Sar's ahead of him, Højbjerg's ahead of him, Rodrigo Bentancur will be ahead of him in the pecking order soon. So it's not really a lot of minutes, and this is where the lack of European football and, you know, Carabao Cup football as well proves costly, because you've got a number of players in the squad who need to be playing. Lo Celso made a really good block on Alex Iwobi outside the area as well in stoppage time. But for like Lo Celso, Valise, Johnson, it's limited time to make an impact. Final, 9 minutes plus 7 minutes stoppage time. And this was at a time where, you know, as Ange said, Spurs were maybe taking liberties at times, taking that extra touch on the ball when they didn't need to. And those three players need more playing time. And same pre-game, I'd like to see Lo Celso get a bit more playing time. But then again, we said last week, there's only one position for him, really. And James Maddison has been outstanding. So it's like, when's he going to really get an opportunity? I think he's just going to have to wait for maybe Maddison to be coming off, or for the FA Cup to restart in January when Spurs enter the third round. But yeah, it's the way it is for the subs, really. Just got to make an impact when that opportunity comes along.
I suppose the one thing I can say about Emerson Royal is that he has gone through some tough times at Spurs and come out the other side stronger and better for it. So yeah, you would expect that he can do it again when he's called upon. So yeah, another little ad before we move on to look into Crystal Palace on Friday night. Once again, after last night's performance, it doesn't get any more exciting at Tottenham Hotspur than it is this season. And the best way to soak up all the atmosphere is inside premium hospitality. Guaranteed seats to all home matches, indulge in unforgettable dining experiences at Spurs' world-class stadium, and enjoy exclusive member-only events outside match day too. Premium at Tottenham Hotspur is unmatched. Visit tottenhamhotspur.com/premium to find more.
Right, so
Crystal Palace, Kessler,
yeah, Crystal Palace Friday, quick turnaround, a repeat of last season's win.
That'd be nice.
Would go down very nicely. 4-0, all 4 goals in second half as well, weren't there?
Yeah,
I think that was a bit of a surprise. Like you said earlier in the pod, Palace not maybe the best of starts. I mean, they're in the position you usually expect them to be in Premier League table, right bang in the middle. 4-0 defeat at Newcastle last weekend, so Roy Hodgson certainly needs a reaction from his players. I'm assuming Eze's still out injured, what I think will work in Spurs' favour, because I mean, he's such a good player. It's a bit of a tough one then in terms of the teams. Yeah, I think you probably know what question I'm going to ask about Yves Bissouma. Now that he's served his 1 match ban, does he come back in, or do you maybe leave him on the bench, rest him to ensure he doesn't pick up that 5th booking of the season, so that he is available for Chelsea a week on Monday?
That would be harsh on Højbjerg, though, wouldn't it? To say, oh, you've been brilliant against Fulham. We'll give you a start against Palace, and then when it comes to Chelsea, do you know what? Bissouma's going to come back in now, because we can let him have the yellow card there.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be harsh on Højbjerg if he was to miss out at Crystal Palace after such a good performance. Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
Good selection headache to have, though.
It is, yeah. I don't know what I would. I think I probably do. I think I would bring Bissouma back in. I don't think you can play the game of try and save him for Chelsea and then use the yellow card somewhere else. I think you're running into dangerous territory when you try and do that, and kind of putting a leash on a player, or not putting a leash on a player, as it were. I don't know, that as good as Højbjerg was last night, I don't know. I just felt we were missing a little bit of something, a little bit of Bissouma in there. As Maddison was talking about having to come and get the ball from the defence, Bissouma just does that so well. Slots in there, like playing out from goal kicks and just turning on the edge of the box and getting away from midfielders that are on his back, and gets things moving from there, essentially. And that's not to say that Højbjerg can't do it. I just think I missed a little bit of seeing that last night from Bissouma. I think he's been so good this season. And yes, Højbjerg was really good when he came in last night. But for me, I think Bissouma is the first choice, kind of holding midfielder, as it were, in that position. How do you think for Friday night?
I've no idea, to be honest.
Predicted team's going to be fun, everyone.
It's such a tough one because Højbjerg played so well, and for me, he deserves to start again and keep his place. But you've got a player of Bissouma's quality who's been, very, very impressive all season. Do you give Sarr a rest and play those two?
If we were talking about him being tired last night as well, potentially you could do that, yeah.
I don't know. I know someone last night was, speaking about the possibility of resting Bissouma against Palace, but then he won't have had a lot of football going into the Chelsea match.
No.
But you know what's going to happen if Bissouma starts? It'll be booked within 5 minutes, won't it?
Yep.
Bound to happen.
Yep. Bentancur thrown back in for the Chelsea game then.
What, from the off?
Yeah.
Well, I think the good thing is Rodrigo Bentancur is, back in full training, working his way back to fitness. Fulham game was too soon for him, but you'd like to think you'd see him in the matchday squad before November's international break comes around. I mean, from a Tottenham perspective, that's only 3 games now. It's, they just come around so quickly, these breaks. I suppose you just don't even really seem to get going before international football comes around. So, yeah, it's going to be great to see Bentancur back on the pitch for Tottenham because, they've started so well this season. And as Andrew was saying last Friday in his press conference, there's still a lot of players at Spurs who haven't made a contribution this season. You've got Lo Celso, Brian Hill, Brendan Johnson, Rodrigo Bentancur. These are 4 really good players as well. So this just shows that, there's that strength and depth, what you need if you want to challenge towards the top. So Spurs, I think they're really going in one direction with Ange Postecoglou, which is upwards at the moment, which is great to see. That's what we want to see for a few seasons. So I'm not sure if Bentancur will be in a position to play Friday. I think maybe you just rest him, wouldn't you? Then he's got.
It'd be nice to see him on the bench against Chelsea. If he's in the matchday squad against Chelsea, it'd be nice.
It's 2 weeks away now, so ample time really. To improve on his fitness and potentially take his place back in the squad. In terms of other changes for Palace, would you be looking at making any?
I don't think so. No, I think the only other question mark is if Brennan Johnson comes in. I don't see any changes being the back line speaks for itself, providing there's no injuries in training. Vicario obviously picks himself, and then you've got Højbjerg, Bissouma, Sarr, two from 3 there. Maddison picks himself, Son picks himself, and then it's the other Richarlison, Kulusevski, Johnson question mark, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for me, Andrew was saying that given the turnaround, probably he's going to have to use his squad a bit more. I'd start Brendan Johnson on Friday. I'd probably give Kulusevski a rest, just drop him down to the bench, put Johnson on his natural right side. You know what you're going to get from Brendan Johnson, just direct player, skillful, bags of pace, can have a big impact in the final third, and obviously bought for big money as well. So Tottenham obviously really confident that can be a key player for them over the coming years. So, yeah, I'd probably give Johnson a go now, get him into a good position ahead of the Crystal Palace game. I know there's been a couple of injuries in attack with even Perisic, Mana Solomon out on the sidelines for an extended period of time, but there's still some really good options there. What Ange Postecoglou can make a few changes. So for me, I probably would start Johnson, and do you maybe drop Sarr down to the bench and give Højbjerg and Bissouma a go, maybe?
Could be a way to go, yeah. Just interestingly, I've just been looking at the fixtures while we were, because I know we've got Palace on Friday, and I know Chelsea's the next game. I couldn't off the top of my head remember who was after that. But so Spurs last week, before the international break, we were first on, weren't we? Saturday lunchtime against Luton. This week we've been last against Fulham. Then next weekend we're first, obviously, against Crystal Palace on Friday night. Following weekend we're last against Chelsea on the Monday night. following weekend, we're first again against Wolves at lunchtime on the Saturday. It's just so fixtures all over the shop. Can kind of have an opportunity to kind of get ahead at the top of the table, and then a couple of weeks later you're chasing again because we're the last on. Just the way the fixtures work out, I suppose. But just found that little bit of information interesting there.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to struggle for Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs this season, just because Spurs always seems to be on the telly at the moment.
Well, TV companies love Tottenham as it is, and if you throw in a potential title challenge as well, it's just we're going to be on telly every week.
Yeah, and obviously we're waiting for December's TV fixtures at the moment to be finalised, so we'll figure out when Spurs are playing in the final month of the year. But they confirmed the Man City one the other day, Sunday 4:30. I was staggered by that because it's always Saturday 5:30. It has been for like 5 or 6 seasons now. Obviously, last season's got moved to a midweek game because the round of the Premier League games got cancelled because of the Queen passing away. But yeah, just waiting for these December TV fixtures. But bet you bottom dollar Spurs are going to be on telly more often than not in December. It's just the way it's going at the moment. But
yep,
when you're playing good football, everyone wants to watch you.
Exactly. Long may it continue.
Yes. So then, right, quickly, Ange's words at full time. He will be, drilling into the players this week. This can potentially have a positive impact going into Friday's game because Spurs players aren't going to want to disappoint him.
They've brought into it already, haven't they? He's come in, and 9 games in, 7 wins, 2 draws, playing the football that Ange wants to see in the main. The players have clearly already bought into it. So when they drop it like they did last night, you can bet your bottom dollar they'll be up for making sure that doesn't happen again straight away on Friday. It's bound to happen again at some point during the season, but if they do it 2 weeks in a row, Postecoglou is not going to be a happy man at all. His demeanour after the game last night was just as if we'd lost. So you don't want to upset the man.
No, certainly not. So a repeat of last season's win at Crystal Palace would be nice, and you just want another 3 points, open up that 5-point lead, which just this time of the year sounds incredible. But I think Liverpool have they got Nottingham Forest, Arsenal are at home to Sheffield United, City have got United in the derby.
Yes, that's correct.
United seem to have turned a bit of a corner past few results, so maybe they could get something against City.
They've got a couple of results, but they're not playing particularly well, Man United. It is the derby though. You never know what's going to happen in a derby, do you? So fingers crossed they can get a result there. Fingers crossed Spurs get a result first on Friday. But yeah, I wasn't holding much hope out of the fixtures that I saw for Arsenal, Liverpool. After we play Palace, obviously both at home, both to lower table sides, and then the next one when we play Chelsea is interesting because Arsenal are away at Newcastle on the Saturday night before we play on the Monday. That's an interesting one. City are at home to Bournemouth, Liverpool are away at Luton. So Arsenal are the only ones there.
Yeah. It's just one of these for Spurs. Just concentrate on yourself.
Yeah.
Just continue to pick up the points and just see where that leaves you come the turn of the year. And, the way they're going at the moment, I think they're going to be in a decent position come the new year. So,
Friday's game is a quarter of the season, isn't it? Done then.
Yes.
10 games. So
yeah, it will be. Yeah. Right. We'll leave that there for today's latest episode of Gold and Guest Talk Tottenham. We'll be back next week with Ali, providing he decides to come back from Australia to review the Crystal Palace match and then also look ahead to Chelsea a week on Monday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. As ever, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To grab our huge discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. You can receive an extra 4 months for free, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the episode description box.